Welcome to episode 2 of the Podwalk. Currently, I and Ruth Lopez, who will be joining us today on the Podwalk, are sitting outside of the Catholic Church located on Polk. And first, Polk Street is one of my favorite streets and favorite blocks to walk. And as Podwalk is all about podcasting while walking around Moscow, I think that this is just a perfect setting, and I'm joined by one of my favorite people, Ruth Lopez, my favorite person.
One of.
Fair enough. And so today, we're going to do something a little different. And we're still going to walk, we're still going to talk in pod, but we are going to discuss podcasting in general, not necessarily a current event or a current issue. I think they're just.
Is this still going?
Yeah, it's still going.
Okay. Just got kicked out by some priest. Dwight, put the chainsaw down.
All the Office references. Yeah, this way. Anyway, because this is uncut, so basically what you just heard is Ruth and I leaping up from the stairs in front of the Catholic Church as they were locking up because it startled us, and just wanted to have some decorum and some respect for the church. So we are not going to be discussing a current event or a current issue per se today, but we are going to talk about some podcasting endeavors, a podcasting endeavor that we launched into 2 years ago around this time, but we're also going to just discuss some of the challenges around podcasting, some of our stories and experiences. So, sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy this short form episode.
We sure ain't relaxing.
We sure ain't relaxing. We're working and creating content for you guys. So, one of the just finding some place to start here, because there's a lot, and everyone and their dog seems to want to launch a podcast. And after having done it for 8 months, I can tell you it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, but it's it's a very unique experience. And this was my second attempt at launching a podcast. And I can tell you that the first one was chock full of lessons the first time trying to get it off the ground. And Ruth, actually, I think that you have actually a sharper memory on what exactly we were trying to do with the first podcast, but would you go ahead and just outline what was the goal of that first podcast that you and I both were trying to launch?
My sharp memory tells me that we were both in school at the time. We were both juniors, and we had both been interested about just getting to know the school more and the students and, history behind Moscow. And our goal was to, through interviews, just kind of find out background stories, whether it was talking about interviewing seniors on their theses or talking to some of the school founders about what it was like founding NSA, talking to people about, businesses that have sprung up recently and what they were before, that kind of thing. And, so that was our goal. Yeah. That I remember at least.
Yeah, and we were co-hosting it, and we were doing it...
But platonically.
We were dating at that time.
Yeah, we were.
But I had asked you before we were dating to join me on that endeavor. And
I didn't know there was strings attached to
it worked out all right. What was, in your opinion, because honestly, it was such a fun idea, and we did multiple warm-up interviews, just trying to get into the groove of co-hosting with one another and just being able to relax in front of the mic. But what was one of the greatest challenges for you, just, on the podcast in general?
I think just kind of being put on the spot, as I am in this moment, although right now I'm in the opposite situation, but as a co-host or host, you want to make sure that you're actually thinking of good questions and finding a way to engage somebody productively. And I have never been a great public speaker. So I think in some situations I found it difficult to even just break in and say something or ask a question. Although I think that it was dependent on who we were interviewing, because we interviewed your dad, who at the time, he was the dad of the guy that I've been dating for 3 months, and I
Fair enough.
was very intimidated. And so I don't think I said hardly a word. But we also interviewed my brother Pete. And I imagine I was fairly comfortable with that. So
Yeah, you actually took the lead role in interviewing him.
Ooh.
On that, I remember.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that would probably be the biggest challenge, is just kind of letting that outgoing part of you be confident enough to ask another questions and stimulate good conversation.
Yes. Yeah, no, I kind of want to just piggyback on that. I think one of the biggest challenges for myself when it came to A, co-hosting, and B, interviewing multiple people, was to make sure you weren't jumping in at the wrong time, allowing for flow and train of thought, because there's just so much that you kind of have to just learn by experiencing it and doing it. It's just really easy to think like, oh yeah, I feel like I'm a good conversationalist, but it's different when the mics are on and you don't want to cut off your co-host and allowing.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't think that was ever a problem.
Case in point. And so yeah, I mean, for myself, doing my own podcast now, I don't have to necessarily worry about that because I don't do as many interviews. But I mean, that's changing and adjusting now. But yeah, I thought that was one of the greater challenges for myself, was just to allow the conversation to flow naturally and not be worried if there was an awkward silence. We'll wrap it up with this question. What would be, one of the things that Darren Doan talks about? We went to one of his talks a few weeks ago, and he said to not be afraid to fail. And that podcast was a flop because we didn't get it rolling. But what was one thing you could take away from that that could be an encouragement? There was none.
Well, I mean, when you say we didn't get it, it was a flop because we didn't get it rolling.
Right.
I think there's a lot more to that. Part of that was because we were not only, junior year is very difficult, but also we were in a new relationship.
Yeah.
But also we just didn't put in the time consistently to get it done.
Yeah.
Like we didn't prioritize. We just didn't use any of those tools to consistently get out content, and so that's why we didn't get it rolling, really. So we kind of gave up on it.
Yeah.
I think I don't necessarily find that experience itself encouraging, even though it was enjoyable.
Yeah.
I actually find your podcast more encouraging than anything else, because you have actually done that, and I've watched you get up at 5:30 some mornings, and only one night, stay up until 11.
Yeah. We avoid those nights if possible.
Yeah. But you put in the consistent work to make it happen, and I find that incredibly encouraging and inspiring in my own life. So just the fact that you've been doing this for 8 months is very encouraging to to me, and the fact that you started from a flop podcast 2 years ago, and you didn't let that keep you from going on. So that is what I find encouraging.
Well, with that glowing review, we will stop there. Well, thank you so much, Ruth, for being willing
I'm
to.
his wife, by the way, in
Yes.
case
Yeah. I hope that
nobody picked that up.
I hope that was made clear. Anyway, so yes, we are romantically involved. So, thanks so much for tuning in for this very casual conversation, but a very nice one.
And here's our outro. It's called Ice Cubes.